Good morning. This is the Richard Thomas Writing Channel, episode 7. More self-overhearing and reading. Um, Trying a slightly different camera angle at the suggestion of my wife. I think it's quite flattering. You can see in the background there, I'm still playing Randy Rainbow. And going to start with a few ideas about Randy Rainbow, which goes in a follow-up all the way back to the first episode. That's the ring. A guy's putting in a new shower head and he's going in and out of the house. The Randy Rainbow is still up because it actually plays back into the introduction, the first episode of the Richard Thomas Writing Channel, which was talking about distribution and just the sharing of art. And I was thinking of certain advantages that I have over Randy Rainbow, which is absolutely nothing to do with talent or quality of content. I just think there's a couple things. I noticed that he has a sponsor. He has one sponsor. It's some sort of news aggregator, or maybe it's actually it's actually a source of news, a news creator. I don't know what it is. He does a very good job with this commercial. That he does it, like with everything else, with a lot of intelligence and taste, actually. But I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to do that. So I'm happy I don't have to do that because it's a distraction and it shouldn't be necessary. I also noticed that, I don't know when he did it, maybe within the last few years, I have no idea. And I don't know if he does a lot of it, but he was doing a live performance, and he uses a lot of mixed media in his videos on his channel. So he had like a projection in the auditorium wherever he was performing, doing a concert of himself. He sings all the parts. If you've seen him, it's really great. I mean, he does all the harmonies and lays down the tracks and everything. So he's standing in front of him performing, and I'm sure he's a really good performer, but actually the experience of just watching the video has to be better. And it's several years ago now. I mean, maybe from 2015 to maybe 3 years, 2015 to 2017, I was trying to put my work into performance, and it's actually this is better. It's just better. It's amazing. It's a brave new world. So yeah, ring for the shower head. So I just think that those are a couple of disadvantages that he has. I'm fortunate. I don't have to get money for what I'm doing. Another thing that it does is I notice going through YouTube with all these channels, and of course, a lot of this, probably many of you have been aware of this for longer than I have. But the whole questions I had about being published or distribution or how to go about it, and look at the introduction. If that's really, I dismissed submitting to agents and publishers. I dismissed self-publishing. I think this is a real, and actually my blog, which I've had for years, if it's in a written format, I could put a whole manuscript on the blog and share it that way. That's all I need to do is self-publish. For anything where my person is involved, like in this video, I can do it on a YouTube channel, which I prefer to podcasting, which I tried a while ago. The thing is that we have uh, we have the means of production uh, in our fingertips. Everything's been democratized, and it's really not that hard to do, and it's not that expensive. So that's oh, and another thing about Randy Rainbow. Uh, there, there's been discussion so far. We've talked about sort of a hierarchy of forms. So there's the blog post, which is just an opinion. I'm talking about my formats now. There's the personal essay. I introduced this idea of notes, like there's some writing that's really just notes to be used for future writing. There's the manuscripts, which are approaching, the novel, which is a higher form and involves more depth. It takes more time. There's more discovery. There's an opportunity to go deeper. There are all these aspects of different forms, but at the same time, uh, this weekend we saw this movie Temple between temples between the temples was this movie, and I liked every scene. I liked the way all the characters were written and acted. I just thought there were too many of them, and I also thought that they didn't it didn't reach a depth. It didn't tell me anything about life that I didn't already know. And I think both the process of reading and writing a novel, that should definitely do that. Now, when you look at Randy Rainbow, he does song parodies. Song parodies are a pretty low form. I mean, you know, if you look at it in some sort of abstract way. But what else does he bring to it? He brings, a very, very a musical virtuosity. He's an excellent singer. Okay. A virtuosity in the writing. He's doing a song parody, but the lyrics are more than uh, just clever doggerel. The lyrics are, as I mentioned, he was highly praised for his lyrics by Stephen Sondheim and by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So he's an excellent lyricist. I mean, I would guess that some of the lyrics of these standard show tunes that he uses, they're better lyrics than the ones that were originally written for the songs. That's how good he is. Then you combine the fact that he does all the work with a high level of intelligence, and then what he brings as a performer. I mean, he has tremendous control of his instrument as a performer. So you look at all these aspects, and these Randy Rainbow videos have affected me in a more profound way than really a good attempt at making a movie. You know, um, so that tells you something too, just in terms of distribution. Now, what's the pro tip for all you little leaguers out there? Uh, that what is it? What's a takeaway? It's like we really live in a time where it's all at our disposal. Everything. We don't need. We really don't need anything to produce what we're doing. Take, for example, I find what I'm doing here very interesting. Now, I don't know how many people would, but that's beside the point, really. I mean, I find it very interesting. I'm looking at what I've written in the past. That writing has a value in the past, but I'm also putting everything that I wrote was for that moment, but also a foundation for the next moment. So now I'm letting you into the process of where does this go? Where does this move to? So it's all of a piece. So I look at it, I assess it, and I'm really through this process setting up the next things that I would do. Um, and I think that's interesting. And even with the ring bells going off and hemming and hawing, ums and ohs, talking in not well constructed literary sentences. I think there is something added by my presence here, by this voice and this face on this video. So I think that is an aspect of what I do. I mean, and I'm starting to I'm not sure of this yet, but I think I'm starting to accept the eclecticism of what I do. What are the things I do? So I'm going to add some stuff now. I talk. Talk is one of the media that I work in. And in many ways, conversation might be considered the lowest one, like, lower than a song parody. I mean, it's like, you know, talk. But if talk is elevated, if it's useful, if I'm starting to think about putting all these things together. I think I was frustrated with being confined by the thought that I was writing a novel. This is consistent. I think it's part of who I am. I I felt I felt confined by the concepts of improvisational theater. I enjoyed it and everything else, and then I burst through it. I felt confined by the processes of being a trial lawyer. I was challenged by it, and then I started. I wanted to burst through it. I can't help but want to burst through the form. I felt confined by being a teacher, and I burst through that. I felt confined by writing these personal essays on a blog, and I burst through that. I felt confined by the literary constraints of the manuscripts, and I'm bursting through that. Artists that I identify with a lot are visual artists, because it seems to me, and I know nothing about it. I mean, I have no expertise about it at all. I mean, I like it, I look at it, but it seems to me that the great painters all redefine painting, and they bring different elements into it. You see things in a different way, and you do things in a different way. And a couple of things that I see is that the if I broke up what I have to say into neat pieces, a book, an essay, uh, a YouTube video of a reasonable length, it's not really what I see. I see this this tapestry, this huge mural that's packed with stories. The Sistine Chapel, I see that, or the Diego Rivera's at Rockefeller Center in New York. I see that, or Bosch. You know, I see all these different caprices and all these different interactions happening within a huge scope. That's it. That's what I see as a life, and I don't think I don't think we're meant. I had mentioned this before. I don't think we're meant to read it in order. I'm not anyway. I don't read it. I don't read it in order. I jump from one thing to another. Somebody can say, well, is that a problem with focus? It's not a problem with focus because the through line are the themes. The themes were there really from when I was born. That's you just keep going over and over and over and over certain things about your life in particular and certain things about life in general. That's what you do. That's the nature of what we do. So I'm kind of talking and reading my way towards freedom. And in doing that, I'm doing it freely. So I'm creating something new with these videos and I'm setting myself up for the next new thing. And I think that's what we always do. And one thing that I noticed as I was looking over the manuscript of the essays that I wrote when we first got to Nashville a year ago, I really see a through line. They're dated. I see a through line from one day to another, and I think that's natural. I mean, I wonder about questions and narrative. I mean, it's not like, well, what happens and what happens and what happens. To me, the narrative is, well, this is the theme. So, what happened in your life related to this theme? That's that's what I feel that we're all about here. So let's see. Let's start doing the reading. Now we're to August 6th with these notes, and it's still in this note portion of what I was putting on the blog at that time, August 6th, 2023, over a year ago now. And this is underwritten, okay, but it later became more written when I wrote the manuscript and I went back to it. After Bernie sold Second City to Andrew Alexander, who was the owner of the Canadian Second City, who bought the Chicago Second City Theater. He was still directing the Resident Company in Chicago. I was still around doing the Rick Show, which was the talk of the Second City community at that time. So I was maybe in my early 30s when I did that. So this is really a long time ago. And basically, the Rick Show is on a continuum with what I'm doing right now. I mean, that was an improvised show, and I just got up on stage and talked. But it's really all the same thing, you know. So yeah, I can see it here. My wife's suggestion is very good. This is very obvious to many of you, but this is the process. You know, I put a few books underneath my laptop, so now my forehead doesn't look like well, it still does, but it's from a different perspective. It does, I was looking down and, so it looks like the screen of a drive-in movie or something. This is better. So I thank her for that. She suggested my microphone, and she gave me this light that I clip on the screen of my laptop, which gives me a little bit of lighting. And I have another light here that I shine on me, and it actually, I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I think it makes you see me better in that way, and that's what I'm showing. But these are all these are all simple little things, but I want to let you in on all this. I want all this in here. I want all the ordinary stuff in here. So then I don't know. The cast that Bernie was directing, including, I'm not even going to mention the person's name because that was one thing I really didn't like about the memoir piece that I wrote. I mean, I'm trying to talk about life, and every time it ends up name dropping, I'm not intentionally name dropping. I mean, these are the people that were actually there. You know, you work at a place like Second City, you have proximity to a lot of people who become celebrities and famous people. But that's why novelization is going to be good actually in dealing with this, because I don't want the point of this for me to say that, I name drop that I work with somebody. I don't want that. I'm also feeling today with this talking that it's a little bit sort of all over the place. It's a little bit fuzzier. There was, for example, the last couple episodes were cleaner, crisper, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to say that's what we're doing right now, because if you're listening to this, watching this, you're doing it too. So that's what's going on right now. I'm really like sort of free associating. There's a Charlie Kaufman movie that starred Philip Seymour Hoffman, Schenectady, New York, which I thought was really terrific. And this guy is creating his life, and he's a director, and the play that he's doing is as long as his life. Actually, it's all like his life. It's Charlie Kaufman is good at surrealism, but the surrealistic image speaks to something that's real. So this is a pretty good picture of the process. Okay, and if you could see it that way, like you're looking at something instead of like you're thinking, well, do I agree with this, or do excuse me, or do I not agree with this? Can I learn something from this? Can I glean something out of it? I think the best way is just to look and listen to it. And I'll mention something else too. The stuff I now I think I'm repeating myself, but that's okay. As I'm doing this on video, I can also put manuscripts right up on. This is the Richard Thomas Writing channel, and I have the Richard Thomas Writing blog, so I can just put it up on the blog, and people can read it. Some people say they like the feel of paper in their hand. They like to read it in paper. They don't like reading off a screen. And what I could suggest is, print it out. I mean, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, this cast that had a famous person, a future famous person, asked me to direct them. And I declined because that felt disloyal to Bernie, who had sold the place but wanted to direct. And I thought that would be pretty lousy, that this guy built this institution, and then I would be a part of, forcing him out. I just didn't want any part of that. And now I get back into Oppenheimer. Like I say, there are notes. Louis Strauss said of Oppenheimer that he wanted it both ways, that he wanted to build the bomb and be known for opposing proliferation. He said Oppenheimer positioned himself as the most important man in the world. Jesus didn't want power. His being disarmed power. That's really interesting. That's something that's happening. There's all these YouTube channels, and also often there's a lot of talk about, social media and its harm and everything. But for example, one thing that's been happening in the Harris campaign is there are so many small donors, uh, small amounts of money from individuals, that it's short circuiting that horrible Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, which gave so much power to large donors to control the government. So there's something tremendously democratizing about what's going on, and it's a democratization of art. I might even posit that should art, or I was talking about, is it art or creativity? At least, I mean, some of my stuff is, if it's not art, it's art adjacent. I mean, should such things even be compensated for with money? I mean, isn't it better to have the money come from another source and then have the creativity be shared? This is to get political about it, to get blog posty about it. This is why universal basic income is a good idea. And this is one of the things now that it's a gift of this era of remote work, where people have more control of their time. Time is a big deal in art, and one thing is that what you do with your time allows you to create. Your freedom to control your own time allows you to create. I even think that AI is going to lead to this in a utopian vision of what it could be. I mean, we hear a lot of the dark stories, and there's a lot of pitfalls. But what happens when all labor is automated? I mean, where the stuff of the survival of life is automated. So what are people going to do with their time? I mean, I think what they're going to do is make and consume art and science and intellectual exploration. I think it could be a really great world, So let's get back to this reading. So it said Jesus didn't want power; his being disarmed power, and that was kind of Oppenheimer's story post Los Alamos. Except, what happened to Oppenheimer, and maybe happened to me too, is we didn't know we were on the Jesus track. So, I was a purist. I was doing improvisation as an art form, and I was surrounded by a lot of people that used a little basic understanding of it to have commercial careers. It's kind of like the way television commercials, United Airlines, Gershwin. So they're playing this great music, but they're selling seats on their planes. That's what happened to Second City, and that's basically what happens to everything else. That's what happened to the vast majority of people who practice law, and that's what happened in higher ed. There were little elements of education. There were little elements of justice and reason, and there were elements at really this improvisation, getting in touch with this wellspring of creativity, but then they were all cheapened because they were exploited. And I mean, I'm old. I'm fortunate enough now, as I say a million times on this thing, that you know, I'm not sitting here and worrying about, well, I'm making this video and I'm not going to have money to buy lunch. That's not that's not my problem now. But even in life before that, well, I'm still in life. In my working life, when I had jobs, I mean, I always had a feeling like, I'm not going to shit where I eat. I'm not I'm not going to prostitute my art. I'm going to do something so I can do my art. And that was always it was a struggle, and there were considerations about it. And then once I felt put upon that I had to spend so much time thinking about the morality of what I was doing to pursue my art, because it had to support me, and it couldn't be spiritually deadening or corrupting. And that's really a hard it's a really hard thing to do. Um, okay, I'm I have more notes here about Bernie, and I think what happened was, I'm not going to read these notes now because like I say, I have that manuscript, which is a memoir, and it's about the length of a novella. I would think it's like, and Bernie is a major character in it, and I just see what I wrote here as notes. So, I mean, I'm just working out what was I really doing. So those notes that I made in August, I didn't even think about these notes that I made in August of 2023, but they ended up being foundational to what I was writing in whenever, a few months ago, not that long ago, maybe April of 2024. So I can see that this is kind of the way my process works. And this is more about being a martyr. I talked about that in the last video. I'm making a comparison between Bernie and Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Oppenheimer. I think there were similarities. Yeah, this I'm looking at this and I'm passing it over because you'll get it in a better form whenever we get to that manuscript. Okay. Um, Now, on August 7th, 2023, which was my 68th birthday, um, I get some direction from yesterday's epiphany about Bernie. Notes, an epiphany, a personal epiphany, not well put into words. I sense a tonal change in my writing, a deeper perspective. I think some epic book project may be brewing that will be relevant to many people, especially younger ones. Well, was it in my writing or in me? I mean, what was happening was is that I was getting a deeper understanding of my life. I had a different relationship to my memory of Bernie uh, than I did maybe 2 years ago. So this is the process now. It did lead to deeper book projects in those manuscripts. They were deeper. Okay, they were deeper. But now I'm at the point where I've gotten to that depth, and now it's like, now what? How's this going to manifest itself now? Um, it will be a remake of the blog from a fresh point of view. Well, yeah, I think there's truth to that. I think everything's a remake of the blog, just like the blog is a remake of working at Second City and working at the West Bank Cafe and being a lawyer and being a teacher and being unemployed and being discouraged and being everything's always a remake of one. What else do we have to work with? We don't have anything else but our experience of the world. Okay, this next passage is kind of I just knocked into the table here. This next passage is kind of telling. This is Nashville, which I am enjoying very much, is the penultimate chapter. I kind of like that line because the next chapter is death. I mean, this is where I'm going to live out my last years and then get very old and sick and die. I hope it goes that way. I hope it's not faster. I don't think it's going to be. Nashville can embarrass as I drive down River Plantation Drive or Robert E. Lee Way or Jefferson Davis Parkway. Older folks are suspicious of Yankees and quickly warm when they see I mean no harm. And this is the romance of something new. That's not exactly true about Nashville. There are a lot of very liberal people here, young and old. But there are also older people that, once they smell that I'm a Yankee, they hate me. I mean, that's here too. So, that's the romance of always at first blush. I said that on a promotional tape when I was teaching at UIC. I think I was there for a year or two. And I said, this is the greatest job I ever had. Well, maybe I didn't have many good jobs. I don't know. That is not the way I would describe it today. The greatest job I ever had is not having a job. The greatest job I ever had is this. Nashville is beautiful. I don't want to say it's a city. It's a quilt. You drive through horse farms and then skyscrapers appear over the horizon. Gated communities quickly turn into something resembling Tobacco Road. Two-lane, no-shoulder roads turn into parkways. Some parts are congested and some parts are wide open spaces. There is no grid. It's a spaghetti bowl of roads. The only way to get anywhere is to meander. It's a courtly place. Ladies and gentlemen in casual clothes. It has the unassuming charm of a beautiful young person. Now, I think that's a nice paragraph. I mean, to me, the biggest takeaway I have from that is craft. I mean, I can sling words around pretty good. And And that's really important in the literary form. But that literary form, that novel, it's just an element of what I do. I said in a recent video, I said I was trying to decide which way did I want to go? Did I have to do that exclusively in order to get good at it? No, it's just part of what I do. It's one of the things I do. I tell stories, I give essays, I talk, I do all these things, and I'm doing them all together, and I'm trying to put them in a frame like a painter, or maybe a long triptych of a frame. This is this is what I'm doing. I'm talking here. It's hard for me to imagine why somebody else would want to listen to this, but I'm always surprised. And I'm always surprised when someone does. This is. I feel a little all over the place today. Then, from a piece of nice writing, I go into a little blog post, just opinion. We saw Barbie yesterday. Great, entertaining, thoughtful, even moving. Art at the Ziegfeld. In other words, that my friend in New York, he coined that phrase about the idea of doing something of artistic value that plays in a commercial venue. The Ziegfeld is a big movie theater in New York City. Barbenheimer is a very hopeful development for the possibilities for your work. Okay, so I didn't catch that, but I cut and pasted this out of a letter to my friend. So that's another thing that's thrown in there. Our letters. I mean, I'm in a constant state of creation. So I don't feel like disciplining it into little boxes and packages so they're easy to pick up at Costco. I mean, this is it. The garbage plate. I'm back to the garbage plate. Okay, I'm going to stop here. So we're still in notes, and we're up to August 8th of 2023. But I'm going to stop here. I hope this had some value to you one way or another. And I thank you for your patience with it. I personally got a lot out of it. And I'll see you next time.